On today's episode, we'll talk about the value of being fearless, what you can learn from shooting news, the Boondock Saints, heroes, and of course, the benefit of receiving a nice rejection letter. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out the breakdown where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, the musings where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the blocking, the answers, the images, and so much more. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. You mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I am Dave Comides, your host, and coming to you over the internet today to North Vancouver, British Columbia, with a guy who is a longtime friend, a longtime collaborator. We used to be roommates. We used to have really big parties together. We actually went to NYU together, although I don't really think we knew each other back then, but we'll find out. A producer, a director, a cinematographer, Mr. Adam Kane. Adam has an amazingly large IMDb list of things that he's done, but just a couple. As a director, Billy the Kid, American Gods, Hannibal, Daredevil, Pushing Daisies, Being Human, Heroes, really cool feature, Formosa Betrayed. As a DP, Heroes, Grey's Anatomy, The Boondock Saints, West Wing, and of course, everybody's favorite movies that I worked on with him. We did some amazing work. I think some of the best work of my career on these movies. Skateboard Kid 2, Psycho Cop Returns, The Double O Kid, and of course, the Chill Deal Boys Make Your Body Move music video, which we all know and love. He's been up for a number of awards, 8 nominations, 7 wins, just a couple of them. 2007 ASC nominee for Heroes, and the Directors Guild of Canada nominated for directing in 2015, 2018, 2019, 2020, 25, and I'm sure more to come for High Moon, American Gods, Deadly Class, Billy the Kid, and a ton of nominations and wins for the short film that sort of got him directing The Fix, which I want to talk to him about. As I said, a good friend of mine, and very, very glad to finally get you on the podcast, Adam. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a long time coming.
No, I keep every time we talk, I'm like, hey, I should get you on the podcast. You're like, yeah, we should do that. And finally I was just like, yeah, we should probably do that.
And then 4 months later, we're like, what location you are? Where are you?
Exactly. So tell me, how'd you get into the business? Was this like always your thing, or what's the deal?
It was not. I started becoming interested in visuals in high school. I took pictures for the yearbook. Mm-hmm. I videotaped in the 1980s with old decks and backpacks and, single tube Panasonic cameras, school trips, just because I was interested. I started working at a grassroots television station in Aspen, Colorado, doing playback, basically a tape op. And I was also very much into music. Music has always been a big part of my life. Both my parents were in the music industry, and I really wanted to go to Berklee School of Music, and my mother absolutely forbade it. There was no way that was happening.
Why?
And she said to me, why don't you try film instead? It's more stable.
Oh, there you go.
Quote.
Wait, so basically was it...
Okay.
But was it we're both in the film the music industry and it's just horrible and there's no way you're going into it? Was that the idea?
Horrible, terrible.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
We will not allow you to ruin your life. So go into the film business, then you'll have a chance of success.
There you go.
And in many ways, she was right with what happened with Napster and the collapse of record sales and all that. She was actually right. But I ended up going to NYU. Which was my consolation choice, if you can believe that. And I started doing everything I could to study anything that was music or sound related. So I took classical music, and I took post-production sound because I thought that was kind of cool, engineering. And then I started off doing student films as a sound recordist. And I was on a student film in my second year at NYU when I saw a cinematographer working, a very talented guy named Rob Lascalzo at NYU. And I was just completely mesmerized by his talent with lighting and composition. And I immediately switched over and started picking up a camera and began what became a 40-year plus love affair with cinematography. And that's how I got involved. So I was not an early bloomer.
What year were you? What year was this?
This is probably 1987 or 8.
Okay, so that's what. So that was that your like junior year, sophomore year? What years were you there?
That would have been. I was there 86 to 90 at NYU.
Okay, so I was there 87 to 90 because I dropped out. But so did we ever actually? Have we talked? I know we've talked about that. Did we ever actually meet at NYU? I don't think so, right?
No. We were there at the same time, but we never knew each other there. We only met. Did we meet at Corey Garriak's wedding?
No, we didn't meet at Corey Garriak's wedding. We met in your front door when I brought you my first reel, which we'll get to. I'm sure.
when I was trying. Okay, cool. We'll get to that story.
That'll jump ahead. Right. But wait a minute. Where did you live in NYU? Did you live in one of the dorms?
Yeah, I lived in Hayden Hall in my freshman year on the park on Washington Square Park.
I didn't know that.
And then I moved over across the park on the other side to I think it was called Stern, which was another dorm.
Yep.
Just a catty corner from the library. And I lived there junior year, and then I lived off campus for the last 2 years.
I was in the Brittany, and I found out on this podcast actually that David Emmerichs lived on the same hall as me and had a Steadicam that he would run up and down the hall. And not only did we never meet, but I never knew there was a guy with a Steadicam in the dorm. It was insane.
How is that possible?
So,
that's unbelievable.
I have zero idea. I know it's really unbelievable. Yeah, well, It's also like you would think if someone was running up and down the hall with a Steadicam, like everybody would be talking about it. So I have I don't know. Maybe it says something about me. But anyway, so basically you just decided that was like cinematography was it at that point?
I decided that was it. I had a band that I was with in New York at the same time. We were playing at little clubs around the village and so on and so forth. And we even recorded an album at Woodstock a year later in 1988 or 1989, which I participated in. But I didn't have enough time to do cinematography and the band, so I dropped out of the band. I was that in love with imagery that I just thought, this is what I want to do with my life. And I just don't, I knew I wasn't a good enough guitar player. I knew I wasn't a good enough musician to really get into, session work. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to chase the cinematography, see where that leads me.
Thankfully for all of us. So you left NYU, you finished off NYU. I mean, do you think you got a good education there? Was it a good program?
No.
That's why I asked. I left too.
No, I mean, I here's what I'll say about NYU. NYU was great in the sense that they put a camera in your hands the first week you're there, and they basically let you loose on the streets of New York, and they say, go shoot stuff. And that was very liberating. Whereas programs like USC, they don't do that. It's very structured. No. And you don't pick up, you can go your entire 4 years in the undergrad program and never shoot a movie, never direct a movie. You can actually go through the entire program and have an undergraduate degree in the fine arts and never actually be a department head. I don't know how they do it, but at NYU, one of the benefits for me was just being able to learn by doing. One of the things about NYU that taught me the most was not the curriculum that in the undergraduate program, but it was one summer course that I took in my junior year that was part of the grad program that was all about cinematography. And it was open to undergrad. It was taught by a guy named Beta Bodka, who was a Hungarian camera operator.
Beta Bodka.
Beta Bodka.
He's probably still there for all we know.
Sadly, he has left the earth. He's not with us anymore.
Oh,
but he
okay.
was a camera operator on the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in the 70s. Some finer cinema. But he was so practically pragmatic with what he taught that the things that he embedded, I still think about today. For example, he had a very thick Hungarian accent, so you'll have to forgive me. This is my best, like Laszlo Kovacs that'll do. But he ended up saying, suppose you have black cat on the white snow. Black kitty, white snow. How do you expose? And he would pose this question to the class. And the answer, of course, was in the middle. It was like an 8-11 split or something like that. But, the imagery that he presented, I still think about.
That's
and that
cool.
was some of the best education I got at NYU. It wasn't from the regular curriculum. It was really from those moments. And when I went on to AFI after NYU, I had a lot more of that because AFI is a conservatory with working cinematographers and working directors. And, you don't have the majority of the faculty that is staffed by people who didn't really have much of a career.
So did you leave? By the way, Beta Bodka's name has come up so many times. That guy influenced so many people. It's incredible.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, just because anybody who went through NYU, I never had him, but I knew who he was. There's so many people who mention his name. It's amazing.
Legend.
Yeah. And so you left it. You left there, and was the idea to come out to LA and go to AFI, or?
No. The plan was to stay in New York because I love New York. And what happened was I was working some very, very scattered, odd jobs that were non-union because none of us who were in NYU were union, except maybe Dave Emmerichs. I was working at a place called Broadcast Arts, which did a lot of animation for stuff like MTV, those little 10-second bumpers that they made where clay would form into MTV Music Television.
Oh, cool. And
wow. Basically we were working on a Mitchell. And I was the assistant, and the animation guys would, move the little clay figures around all day, and we'd shoot 30 feet, maybe. And I was bored out of my skull, because it was like frame by frame, and the Mitchell was just sitting on a tripod, that kind of thing. Yeah. And they were paying me like, I don't know, $60 a day or something, because it was all non-union. And at the time, the unions in New York could not come to an agreement with the producers. And so a lot of work was leaving New York and going to Toronto or Montreal to shoot for New York. And after graduating, my student loans were coming up, and I didn't know how I was going to pay them back. So I thought, if I go to grad school, I can kick that can down the road because
smart.
I already owed, I think, more than 100,000 or almost 100,000 from the NYU experience. And so I thought, what's another 40 or 50? I mean, it might as well have been $10 million. So I much to my mother's chagrin, because she wanted me to go to grad school since I was in elementary school. She wanted me to have a backup career in case this whole filmmaking thing didn't work out. And she wanted me to...
Oh, grad school and something else, you mean? I got you.
In anything. She just wanted me to be able to teach, if I needed to. And so I applied. The AFI was the only program that I thought was worth going to because of its conservatory atmosphere, really. Yeah. And I got in. And so that's what got me from LA to New York. I delayed my student loans for another 2 years while I went through AFI. Mm-hmm. And my only goal in going to grad school was to start working. So I wasn't at AFI a lot because I was out hustling.
Okay. God. Oh, I see. So that was just a means to an end. Was AFI a good experience? Did you get a good education?
Amazing. Yeah. They'd bring in working DPs. Like Theo Van de Sant came in on one occasion, and he had a laser disc of a movie he shot yes, a Laserdisc of Miracle Mile.
Oh, wow.
And like he would play a scene, the finale of the movie, which was at the corner of Wilshire and La Brea in Los Angeles, which he had to shoot the entire sequence at the intersection of that boulevard night for day.
Oh.
And this is like in, the late 80s when you did stuff like that, you had to have Musco lights and 100 by 200 grip silks and things of that nature. So being able to go through pragmatic problems with working DPs was invaluable. It wasn't theory
That's
anymore.
great.
It was incredible. And one funny story I'll tell about AFI is we had a very old cameraman there named Harry Wolf. And Harry had been the DP on Beretta in the 70s.
Yes.
And we'd be putting, we did a lot of our assignments in, at that point in 16 millimeter in the first year or Betacam. And we'd put cameras on tripods. And Harry would come around and say to me, "God damn it, take the camera off the tripod. You'll get better shots." and he was right. Like I realized, wow, I'm just being lazy. So ever since then, even now to this day, even though I've got a messed up knee and kind of a messed up shoulder, like I'll be crawling around on the floor or standing on tables looking at angles. And it's all because of that little voice in the back of my head from Harry Wolf.
That's great. You said you were out hustling to get work. Would you just go into production offices and give your resume? Or, how do you do that?
Right. So at that time, the Hollywood Reporter, and they may still have this, on every Thursday they had a production listing that came out.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if they have it anymore, but yeah.
And so every Thursday I would dutifully send out my resume, which was incredibly thin, to production companies that said they were in prep. And I did that probably every day for 3 years, every week for 3 years.
Wow.
What I didn't understand at the time is that because there was no low budget contracts with the IATSE, that a lot of those companies would put up the listings when they had already finished shooting in order to throw off the unions.
Oh, that's why I never got calls back.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's a game changer right there. Okay. So you didn't get much out of that, I'm assuming.
I got nothing out of that. I'll tell you what I got out of it, and I still have it to this day, is, and it taught me to be fearless. That if you don't ask in this industry, you do not get. No one's going to come and hand it to you. No one's going to come and say, "Hey, Adam, I just noticed that you're incredibly talented. Would you like to shoot a $30 million film?" It's like, no,
Exactly.
That doesn't happen. You have to lobby for everything, and you have to be a good salesperson. So one of the productions that I sent a resume for was to a little movie called Mr. Jones that was directed by Mike Figgis with Richard Gere. Now, Richard Gere was not listed in the report, and I didn't know who Mike Figgis was. So I thought, well, I'll send a resume. Now, as you might imagine, my resume at that point was a bunch of student films and maybe some camera assisting credits, I think, if I went back and looked. But I still have a rejection letter from Mike Figgis' secretary on Paramount.
Fantastic.
United Kingdom stationery. And I'm really touched even now by that, because they didn't have to take the time to do that. But it was very
cool.
It was very kind to be able to send an enthusiastic young cinematographer a letter that basically said, "Keep swinging."
That's great. Oh, that's really cool. That's very cool. Wait, you still have that?
Oh yeah.
Send me a copy of it. I'll put it on the webpage for this.
I will. It's so podcast. Awesome.
That's great.
But out of that just came like, okay, it's like the lotto. If you don't play, you can't win.
And you just got to keep putting it down on a number on roulette, and eventually something will come up, maybe.
Right, and the industry is very much like that. So it's something that I tell people that I mentor all the time, which is that you have to get out there. This is a business of relationships, if you
Yeah.
don't actually know people or know people that can vouch for you, it's going to be hard to get hired. If very few jobs come along with people that you have no connection to. They do come, but it's rare.
Well, and the other part of it is it's also just getting your name out there, because you may not be like Mike Figgis, you're not ready for that, but a couple of years from now, you are maybe ready, and something comes across his desk, and he sees the name and recognizes it on some level, and goes, "Oh, wait a minute, I think I've seen this name before," and suddenly you're half a step closer to the job than you were before, right?
That's so true. Name recognition is a big part of it. That's why still to this day, I will take general meetings with pretty much anybody. Because if your name's not in the conversation, then you can't be hired. You can't even be considered.
Yeah.
Because you're not a legitimate idea to anyone.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's great advice. That's fantastic. So what were you, while you were at AFI, what were you shooting? I mean, were you shooting anything?
Anything. I shot weddings, bar mitzvahs. I shot depositions for the courts, which you can't imagine how boring those are. Yeah.
Oh,
I got paid to shoot.
It's slightly worse than weddings and bar mitzvahs.
Actually, a lot worse, because you're sitting in a static room for hours as someone's giving testimony.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
I shot spec music videos when that was a thing that people did. I shot spec commercials. I shot anything that people would have me do. A lot of student films, a lot of short films. Yeah. And one of the most fortunate experiences that I had during that time, when I was trying to get my career to have some sort of consistency, is that I got hired to shoot news for Associated Press for a number of years. And at the time, there was what has now become normal. There was an experimental idea about having East Coast, Central, and West Coast news crew in the U.S. that would have a cameraman and a reporter, and they would do stories from each of those regions that had no on-air reporter, so that it could be packaged as news from North America and sold to Europe and Asia. And they didn't have a lot of money for this program, although for me, it was a lot of money at the time. But I would get hired to run around with a Betacam and shoot news. I shot El Nino storms in the early 90s in Los Angeles. I shot the O.J. Simpson trial. We'd run down to the criminal courts building to try and get a soundbite from F. Lee Bailey or Robert Shapiro or whomever. And then the rest of the day, we'd chase around jurors that had been kicked off and try to get interviews and things like that. I also got pulled into the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah. And
that was a life-changing experience. I had been always very, very in awe of international broadcast reporters, broadcasters, and camera people, because I think it's a really important job to be reporting in war zones. And I had been flirting with the idea at that point of maybe becoming a full-time correspondent, not an on-air person, but a camera person. And after Oklahoma City, I just realized I didn't have the constitution for it. Just photographing dead bodies come out of a terrorist event was incredibly upsetting, moving, angering. And, in news, you don't really know what the story is. And you're putting together the story with images based on your intuition and your knowledge at the time. And it became an incredible training ground for television and film. Because when you have to think quickly on the spot and think, what is the story? What images do I need to capture in order to tell the story that's going to be most effective for the audience? It taught me how to think on my feet and make split-second decisions, to not second-guess myself, because when the news is unfolding, you don't have time to think about things. You just have to point the camera and shoot, and then send it off to editorial and hope that they can cobble something together based on the images that you present. And that's still a skill set that affects me now when I direct television, is all those sort of news gathering experiences that I had.
Huh. Interesting. By the way, for anybody who doesn't recognize what Adam's talking about, this was the federal building in Oklahoma City that Timothy McVeigh blew up. That I believe, Adam, there was a child care center at the bottom of it, right?
There was.
Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I mentioned that, so anybody really understands what you're talking about. So you get there and you're shooting this stuff, and how do you push out your emotions in that moment to be able to do your job, well, and not just walk away?
Well, let me back it up before then, because just getting into the bomb site was problematic. Oh. So the morning that I was called to go to Oklahoma City, I was scheduled to do a fashion shoot for E-Television. It's a little different. So I'm at the camera rental facility picking up the gear, and I get a call on my 90s cell phone, which is about the size of a brick. And they say, change of plans, you're going to Oklahoma City. There's been a terrorist event there. And of course, it hasn't hit the news yet.
Yeah.
The news cycle. So I pack up, I go to the airport. They tell me, okay, your reporter will meet you there. She's coming from DC. It takes me all day to get there from Los Angeles because every flight is booked. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I left on like an 11 a.m. flight. I get in at midnight after going through 2 different airports waiting. I have a full Airy light kit, which for those that remember the 90s will remember the 401ks in a light kit. I have a Betacam.
The big gray case, right?
The big gray case.
Yeah.
I have a full-size Betacam with an onboard deck. I've got batteries. I have microphones. And it's me. So I get to like the last hotel room in Oklahoma City that's kind of in a dodgy part of town. And I get at about 1 a.m. and I don't have any calls from Associated Press. So I turn out the light and I go to bed. And 10 minutes later, the phone rings and they say, you've got to come down here. The crew has been on the bomb site for over 30 hours. They need to take a break. I say, okay.
Oh, I see.
Now, At this point, I don't have any press credentials. So I gather the camera and a microphone and batteries. And I had one of those little photographer vests that we all made fun of in the 90s. Yep. Stuffed it all in there. And I went down, and there's about 70 million government agencies all over the place. FBI, ATF.
Wow.
The CIA is there. Like, everybody's there because this is a major
crime scene. Yeah.
Huge crime scene. And they're checking. They're not letting anybody in. And I get out of the cab, and I'm like, and I see them in the distance about a block away checking press credentials. I'm like, shit. I see a camera crew walking up, and they've got press credentials. I just saddle up on the outside of them and say, "Hey, man!"
Classic.
And I snuck in to the bomb zone. Now, across the street from the site, there were about 250 satellite trucks in a parking lot where they were keeping all the news crews corralled because they didn't want people just roaming around the rubble. First of all, it was an active crime scene. Second of all, there were people that were still buried alive. They were trying to get out. Third of all, the building was unstable. They were afraid it could collapse.
Oh, yeah, right.
So they had police surrounding the scene, and I just started shooting, anything that I could. And there was no reporter. And about every hour or so, the fire chief would come out and give an update on the number of bodies and the condition of the building. And so I realized, I need sound bites because AP is going to expect to have information. So I hooked up the microphone, and I had, the Betacam on my right shoulder, the microphone on my left shoulder, and I would just pass it back and forth between me asking questions. Fire Chief Hansen, what's the body count at this hour? And I'd shove it over to him as I was shooting, and I'd get a clip because that's what I had to do. Right.
Yeah.
And that went on for about another 32 hours. The reporter got stuck she got stuck on a flight, never showed up. And I got a call on my brick cell phone from the 90s, which was from Radio Shack. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, so knock on the door of WJSTY, whatever it was. They're going to do the upload for you. And so 5 a.m, I start knocking on doors, and like, I can't find the truck. So I just knock on a random door. And I said, listen, I'm with AP. I need to upload some stuff to Washington. They'll pay for it. Can you guys upload it for me? They said, yeah, sure. Come on in. So like, I mean, this was like low budget filmmaking. It's like you make it work. You make it work because you have to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no doubt that it was a good fit for my personality, but at the same time, it just reinforced this idea that you don't allow obstacles to stop you. You make happen what you need to make happen. And again, like, there are times when I'm shooting nowadays where that comes into play. And that's a part of our industry as well. And so like, there were so many things that I did that taught me lessons that were not in the medium that I landed in that gave me invaluable advice. So one of the things I tell people is go shoot anything, shoot everything, because you never know who you're going to meet that's going to become somebody that you might know down the road, or what the lesson might be that will absolutely apply to your career at some point.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, and I think you and I can both go and look back on our careers, and it's like, I met this person there, and I met this person there, and I met this person at this person's party, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Totally.
That's completely how it happens. There's no question. And I think that's I don't know where I got your name from, but that's kind of how you and I met. Now, were you at AFI when you and I met?
Yes. So I was in my second year at AFI, and I was doing my hustling thing. I found out about this company, Crystal Sky Communications.
Crystal Sky, I forgot about them.
Steve and Paul.
What a horrible company.
Terrible people. Awful. And they were basically hiring non-union crews to shoot movies for a nickel. And so I got, I met a director. They didn't hire me, but I started storyboarding with him, and they wouldn't hire me, and they would not hire me. They didn't hire anybody, but I basically made myself invaluable to the director by storyboarding with him for 3 months.
Oh, 3 months. Wow.
And at one point I called up my friend Tim Bogart, who I went to NYU with.
Tim Bogart. Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what to do, man. Like, I feel like I'm just wasting my time. He said, you have to stick with it. This is the best shot you have. And he was right. I stuck with it. They hired me to do the movie. And in the interview, who, by the way, Eric Bryman interviewed me, which you'll find amusing.
I'm getting hives listening to this.
So, I basically put together a reel that was all my student work from NYU, because I didn't have anything else. And, because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have IMDb, and we didn't have Studio System, they couldn't check anything, right? So I just said, oh, these are all small independent films I shot on the East Coast. It was sort of a partial lie. And I later found out that they knew I was lying, but they liked that I had so much confidence that they decided that I could do the job. So awesome. I got hired to do the Opus, otherwise known as the 00 Kid, with Corey.
I didn't know it was called something else.
No, it wasn't. I'm joking. It was
I see,
called
the Opus.
00 Kid.
Okay. Yes, which I'm sure everybody listening has seen, because I don't think it's streaming anywhere.
Yeah. So, and like, it was $1 million movie on paper, and they were paying me to shoot 35 millimeter film for $100 a day. And I was ecstatic. And I hired one of my friends from NYU, Corey Gariak, to be the gaffer. Corey went on to become Wally Pfister's gaffer, who did Inception and the Batman movies, and
is now a great DP in his own right,
and is now an insanely talented DP.
But so I think Corey called me up, because Corey and I used to shoot these. We used to shoot karaoke videos. Do you remember those?
Of course.
those horrible videos that are on in the background when people are singing like "Love Will Keep Us Together" or
So
something
good.
like that. They were terrible.
Those
and
were
Corey
the
and I
best.
used to shoot them, but I think Corey gave me your name and said, "Hey, this guy I know from NYU has a feature. You should get him your reel." So that's when I think we met. I'm pretty sure that's when we met.
Yeah. And I was still in AFI. I was in my second year at AFI.
Okay, so I didn't know you were at AFI. So
I was.
Do you remember when I came to your apartment with with the VHS?
Yes.
Do you want to tell people what it was?
So Dave comes and he starts being apologetic right from the get-go, saying,
I don't remember them.
I'm really sorry. I shot with my roommate in the backyard. And what it was 360s of his roommate playing guitar in the backyard.
No, it was Augie and Matt, and they were back to back, and they were lip syncing to Jack and Diane, I think. It was horrible.
And he was doing 360s, and the horizons were perfect. And I was like, oh, you can operate. You're hired.
So my version of this was, I remember coming to you were like in Burbank or something like that, and
I was in a studio apartment, in Burbank.
Yeah, and I remember knocking on the door, and I was like, oh God, this guy's a DP and whatever. And I think I was like, listen, I have a lot of other projects, but I haven't been able to get any of the stuff, and I didn't know what to show you. So I shot this thing, and I handed you the tape, thinking I'm going to hand you the tape and leave. And you were like, well, let's sit down and watch it. And I'm like, oh my God. I remember I came in and sat on the couch and you put it in, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. This is horrible. And then you basically were like, yeah, so, if you could do the job, let's do it.
You were so apologetic. It was hilarious.
That's hilarious. Now, wait, did we do the Chill Deal Boys music video before that? Or was that after?
It was after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Double O Kid was the first thing we worked on together.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So, and I guess I must have day played on that, right? I wasn't on the whole movie, was I?
I don't think so. I think you day played.
Yeah. And so were you operating then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So like in those days with the non-union stuff, they didn't have money for camera operators in the budget. So if you were a non-union DP, you also operated. So all of the first, I would say, probably 12 or 15 movies that I shot as a DP, I was also my own operator.
That's right. Yeah. And actually, as I remember, it wasn't even that on those movies. You generally didn't have a video tap, and the days that I came out were the days that they got a video tap, I think.
Correct.
Or we would use the eyepiece tap or something like that. But the other part of that, by the way, that you may not know is the way that I shot that, it was down in Laguna Beach. The way that I shot that was I went to Circuit City and I got a VHS camcorder. I used it and then I returned it because they had that 30-day return policy.
No way. That's so awesome. Yeah, totally. I didn't know that. Oh my God.
It's so terrible, but that's what you had to do. I mean, like you said, you just go, I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to do whatever I have to do to make this happen.
That's right.
Like there's no option. So did you know what you did you feel like you knew what you were doing, or were you like, I'm just going to push through this?
No, you just push through. I mean, at the time, this is so funny because, and you may remember this, Dave, but you won't remember what I'm about to say, but you'll remember the follow-up, which is that I was running around on day exteriors with a 4x bounce because I didn't know what an 8x, a 12x, or a 20x was, right? Because I didn't come up under another DP. So I was just like, okay, I need to get some fill light in. I'll get a bounce card and
run around with this.
And so, you get Corey or whoever the key grip was, or Crash was on that job too.
Crash was on that job?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless him.
Yeah, God bless him.
I didn't realize he was on that. I knew he was on Bitter Harvest with us, but he was on that. And so he was probably running around with it, of course.
He was probably running around. So then it wasn't until after the feature, probably a year later, when you and I were still living together on Orange, and you said, hey, I'm going to go visit Julio Macat on set. And we went and visited Julio, and he was shooting a feature. And I see a 20x, like on a street. And I'm like, it just clicks in my head. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
That's hysterical.
So it's like, yeah, man, it's like you learn by working with what you have, and then you learn as you go. And yes, I read American Cinematographer, and yes, I idolize some of the greatest cinematographers that have ever lived, like we all did, Owen Roisman and Gordon Willis and Haskell Wexler. But I didn't really have an understanding of the tools that people were using. So I just used what I thought, intuitively. And then I learned really the more efficient way as I went along.
That's awesome. Well, also you don't know what you don't know, right? So like you're like, I'm doing this the best way I know how, because that's what I know. And then you learn something better and you go, okay, now I'm better at it, or whatever.
Well, yeah, like this happened on Bitter Harvest, where which we also worked on together, where I'm shooting like the finale of the film, and I need a low angle, and I don't have a Rodford head. I don't have a way to get down low. I need to do a dolly in, but I figured out if you flip a doorway dolly upside down and you put a sandbag on it or a shot bag with the camera, you can get another 3 inches lower to the earth.
There you go.
So It's like, that's what we did. Or if we needed to drag something along the floor, you put down a Fernie blanket or sound blanket, and you just drag the camera on the floor if you need something floor level. And that's something I've used on episodic television as a director when I have 8 million an episode to work with.
Yep.
Like,
we just did that. Well, not recently anymore, but I was just talking about it with someone. They wanted a shot pulling underneath a bed away from someone's feet there. And they were doing this whole thing of like, they were going to build this whole rig. And I was just like, give me a Fernie pad. I will literally hold it and someone's going to pull me underneath the bed. Right. And they're like, that's not going to work. And I'm like, yes, it is.
Oh, yes, it will.
And it worked fine. Because they're only going to use it for 10 seconds, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be like rail, whatever. But yeah, it's absolutely. And I think that like at the point on the things that we're working on now, if we didn't have those scrappy times, we wouldn't be half the filmmakers that we are. Don't you agree?
I completely agree. I often joked in those days that I was like the MacGyver of low budget DPs, that I would do things with paper clips and chewing gum and, scraps of like cocktail napkins, because that's what we had to work with. Like, we didn't have great gear. We didn't have a Steadicam on run for the show. We couldn't afford it. We didn't have a B camera a lot of the time. When I was doing a lot of these cameras with a single camera, there was no such thing as a standard 2-camera package in the late 80s, early 90s when we were doing a lot of these shows. So you just figure it out, man. And
it was an amazing time.
But you know what? But what you learn is that it's not about the gear, right? It's about the time that it takes to use any gear, because time is the most valuable commodity you have when you shoot. It's not about, I need 100-foot techno. Well, sometimes you do, depending on the shot. But a lot of the time, what you need is the time to be able to figure something out that maybe you don't have the piece of gear for, or maybe is more perplexing as a story point that you're trying to get across to the audience. Yeah. Simplicity is often not only the mother of invention, but often the right storytelling choice. I did a shot on Billy the Kid where there was a whole sequence of the middle of the night, a knock on a door on the 3rd floor. The innkeeper gets up, puts on his shoes, goes down the staircase, this whole kind of montage. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have time to shoot all that. So I shot one shot from outside the hotel as you see a light come on and you hear knocking at the door. And then you travel down on a crane outside the window as you see the light going down, and then you find and reveal at the front door who is knocking, and then the person comes out. We did it in a oneer, and it took about an hour and a half, and it was a very elegant way to tell that story. But like oftentimes that ends up being the better solution.
That's fantastic. I love it. Yeah. I would say operating wise, what I've come to realize is 90% of the time when I begin a shot, as I go forward and I make it simpler, it becomes a better shot.
Yeah, totally.
Just because like you end up taking all the superfluous out and you just get to the storytelling, and that's what it ends up being, and it's better. It's interesting that does that. Out of curiosity, I have to ask you this. Was I any good?
You were excellent.
Was I really?
Yeah.
Because I remember not having any idea what I was doing on that and thinking I'm going to get fired in any given moment. I mean, granted, I think the bar was set so low for all of us because we were just excited to be there, but I didn't think I had any idea what was going on. And yeah.
Well, first of all, the bar was sitting on the ground. So let's just.
It might have been underneath the ground.
It wasn't even suspended. So, it didn't take a whole lot. Like, I just needed people who were enthusiastic and had a modicum of skill,
We were that.
And we were that. But you were natural. You were natural on the rig. You understood somehow the connection between the rig and your body, which is not a given. With Steadicam.
No.
And you really understood about storytelling and composition. And that's still something cool. That is the focus of how I work with operators now, is I always am trying to convey the emotional story objective with a shot. I'm trying to give the operator a context for how it might fit into the edit. So they understand, like you said, with the rug pulling, like, we need 3 seconds. 3 seconds is what we require. So if the whole shot doesn't work from top to tail, it's okay. What we need is the middle 3 seconds to work. Or this shot's going to dovetail between 2 other shots we've already done. So understand that the entry point, the beginning is going to be crucial because one guy was looking left on the previous frame and the person needs to now look to the right. And, so I always try to put things in editorial and storytelling context, in addition to the emotional goal of a shot, to help give people, because I want to work with operators who are storytellers. If I don't, and this is something I'd often talk to producers, like when they wouldn't want to pay for somebody good as a DP, I would say, look, if we're not going to get a storyteller, I'd rather just do it myself. Because otherwise, it's a middleman who is probably going to take longer on the set to achieve what we're after.
I totally concede that about you, because you're not the type of person who will say, like, I need you to tilt up until you get to the light and then come over to the right. You'll explain the concept of the shot, tell them what you need, and then expect them to make it better, I'm assuming.
Exactly. That's exactly, because, like as a DP, you sort of like go through this process when you're coming up, and as an operator too, even if you have to fight for assistance with the producers, like you want to hire somebody because of how good they are. You want to hire a dolly grip because they think like an operator. Absolutely. And maybe they cost another, couple $100 a week or whatever. And you often get pushback, and you say, look, everybody on a crew and a cast is scrutinized for their hires, like to the nth degree. And you get them there on set, the cast and the crew, and then you don't want them to bring their talents to the table. Like, exactly. if I have to micromanage everybody, then what the fuck do I need everybody else for? I should just do it myself.
Do people you work with just often not understand you? Because this is not how everybody works, unfortunately. Well, it's too intelligent.
Crew people understand exactly what I mean because they're on the floor. Yeah. Filmmakers who have been on the floor, either as an actor or as a crew member, understand. But the vast majority of people, as you and I both know, that are in production manager roles or producer roles, have not come from the floor. So they don't know. Directors as well. There's so many people that do not have the experience of coiling cable at 4:00 in the morning, of having to load a truck after a full night shoot. They don't know what it is to be a crew member.
And that is the problem, is so many of them have never gone through the ranks that they don't understand what it takes to make most of this stuff. So they're completely bewildered when we ask for something. And it's like, I'm not doing this because, for my health. I'm doing it because this is going to make the job better, or it's going to make it faster, or whatever that happens to be.
Well, it's a common joke of like what early in my career, after Bitter Harvest, I did another low budget movie when I was still non-union, and it called for a sequence to be shot in the desert out by Palmdale. At what was it? What's that old diner called? Ed's Diner that was out there. Do you know that joint?
Oh, I know what you're talking. I do, but I don't know what it is. I know what you're talking about. Like 1,000 movies have been shot there.
10 million things have shot there, They shot part
I
of
don't know.
California there, the Brad Pitt movie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But we're shooting. We were going to rent that location, and it was a movie where the sequence took place at night out in the desert. And so, of course, I ordered condors and lights and drop jetties and things like that. And the production manager pulls me into his office and he says, "Well, we can't really afford this stuff. It's expensive." And I said, "Yeah, filmmaking's expensive."
Yeah, right. What did you think?
And he said, "Well, do you have any other ideas?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "We should rewrite it for day exterior." He said,
there you go.
He said, "You're joking." I said, "I'm not. I'm actually not, because on film, if we don't have any ambient light out there, because there is no ambient light in the desert, you're not going to see anything. So we might as well go onto a soundstage with a bunch of sand and shoot against black drops."
There you go. Yeah.
Guess what happened? I got the lifts. Because at the end of the day, it's like what was going on was, here's a guy who had never been on the floor. He had never worked on a lighting crew. He didn't really have an understanding, and he was probably used to leaning on guys to just give up gear because people operate out of fear in this industry. And I never really was like that much. So I just would push back, and it's amazing what you get when you push back.
Where do you think, is that inherent in your personality, or did you learn that somewhere?
Sadly, that comes from my father, I think. My father was a very cantankerous agitator. He was a composer. He wrote music for TV shows like Hotel, Matlock, Dynasty, Love Boat, things like that. And he also did films as a conductor for other composers at the time. And he once got in an argument with John Peters, the producer. John Peters took a swing at him. This is during the 70s. And my father, who had taken, martial arts classes, basically punched him in the throat and dropped him. So it's like I come by it honestly. I've always had a short fuse. I deal with it very differently now in my old age. But yeah, I think, I didn't learn that from anybody. If anything, the people that I did have the opportunity to watch as I got older, more experienced rather, in the business, were people like Stephen Poster, who through you and your generosity managed to get me on shooting second unit on a TV movie that Stephen shot that you were operating on.
Wait, was that the remake of Strangers on a Train?
I have no idea. I can't remember what it was, but
it must have been, because
you did like 2 or 3 days of second unit. You suggested me. Steven said okay. I was ecstatic because it's like, Stephen Poster, Blade Runner. Oh my God! I was like fanboying out, right? And I don't know if you remember this, but at the time I was living out in Woodland Hills, and I woke up late, and I was more than an hour late to call. And,
no, I don't remember this at all.
So funny. So I called you and I said, should I just turn around? Should I not even bother coming in?
That's right. Yeah, right.
And you told Stephen, and he said, no. Stephen says, keep coming, keep going. So I got there and I met Stephen, and he was really nice. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, "Oh, it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming. Don't fuck it up." It's exactly what he said.
That's great. That's great.
It was actually really, it was sobering for sure. And it was basically like, look, we're going to give you a pass on being late. So this is an opportunity. Take advantage of it. Don't let it slide through your fingers.
I had completely forgotten about that. But that's what you did back then. You were constantly trying to get people you knew in there who needed the break. And anytime any one of us got onto something, we tried to bring as many people as we could with us, because we were sort of all in it together.
It's like when you were operating on Space Above and Beyond, the Fox show. I'll bet you didn't think I was going to bring that up, did you?
Well, I didn't. I have no problem with Space Above and Beyond. I did Monday through Thursday, and I got fired on Friday. And did you come in and replace me? Or
no,
were you already on it?
No, there was an A-camera operator that got something in her eye during an explosion, and you called me and said, "Can you come down to Long Beach right now?"
Yeah.
She's going to be away for about a week or two, and I ended up staying for 3 months as the A camera operator.
I think that was Gina DiGirolamo. I forget how to pronounce it, but
you are correct. It was Gina.
Yes, and it was Tony. Tony was
Tony
DP
Palmieri was the
Tony
DP.
Palmieri. Yeah, but I made it Monday through Friday. Oh, that's right. And that was like the day after I got fired or something that you came in. I don't think we overlapped.
Well, we were shooting at some industrial plant, multi-camera.
Yeah.
And so I came down and I took over, and I thought, I'll be here a week or two. And I was there for 3 months. You got fired at one point.
So I did the first 4 days of that as B camera, and I had no idea what I was doing, and they let me go on Friday morning. I think I showed up and there was another operator there actually, or something. I don't remember. It was like really abrupt, and I had a really rough weekend. And then I basically went home and decided, I'm not going to let this take me down. I'm going to go in and learn as much as I can about operating. And I just peppered people with questions and stayed on set and watched people and realized I had to take it much more seriously. And then the next series I got called for was ER. So I sort of, that firing was what kind of set me up for success on ER.
Yeah, it's I found my career to be,
between, obviously,
but I found my career to be very much the same, which is, a door closes, something else opens. You can't see it in the moment. It feels devastating, but when you look back in the rear view, it's like, wow, if that had not happened, there are so many things that would not have happened.
Oh, there's no question about it. Speaking of doors closing and doors opening, I have to ask you about Boondock Saints, because of all the things you've done, that probably is the most infamous, I think, potentially.
That's a good descriptor.
How did you? So was that a Tim Bogart connection?
No, actually,
okay.
That was a connection through a guy named Mark Bryan Smith, who went to NYU. Mark and I knew each other from NYU. He had made friends with Troy Duffy and was sort of part of the inner circle of Troy's group that hung out at Sloan's, which was a bar on Melrose, the same one that Harvey Weinstein infamously said he'd buy for Troy as part of the deal for the Boondock Saints.
That's right. Oh, wait, he never actually bought it for him?
No.
I thought. Oh, okay. I remember this happening. And okay, all right, yeah.
And so when Boondock Saints was unceremoniously shuffled out of the Weinstein Company, Miramax, I think it was called Miramax still.
Yeah.
It got picked up by a company called Franchise Films, which was run by a guy named Ely Samaha, who was making sort of mid-low budget films, like 7 to 10 million kind of things. And what I found out later is that, which was a very shrewd move on Harvey's part, is that he basically said, you can have this movie if I can have the first right of distribution, and you have to pay me back all of the development costs. So Harvey got the movie made in a way, didn't have to shell out a dime in the end.
Shell out anything, yeah.
And he still had the first right to distribute it if it was any good, which was shrewd,
Amazing.
But the movie dropped from a $15 million budget that was going to be shot by Bill Fraker originally.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bill Fraker had signed, of course, because you've got a first-time filmmaker, Troy Duffy.
Yeah.
You want to put him with an experienced DP. So they hired Bill Fraker to do the original Boondock Saints when it was part of Miramax. And then when it was put in turnaround and it was picked up by Franchise, the budget got cut in half. It was going to be a $7.5 million movie. So Bill Fraker at that point says, I don't think I can make a movie I don't think I know how to make that movie with that budget. So Mark Bryan Smith says to Troy, hey, I've got this buddy named Adam Kane. You want to meet him? Troy at that point, as part of his package deal with Harvey, also had a band. And part of the deal was that there'd be a recording contract with Atlantic Records with his band. And Troy wanted to do a music video, and Atlantic was not going to shell out any money. So Troy decided he was going to shell it out himself. So I went down to the bar and met Troy and the rest of the guys, and I shot the music video. And that's how I got in there.
am I crazy? Because I think I worked on this with you. And was there like a night sequence that we shot by pulling all the cars up and turning the headlights on? Am I
Yes, that's
crazy?
you're
Okay,
exact at a cemetery. Yeah,
so that's what this was. Now
yeah,
this makes sense to me because I've sort of remembered all this, and I think what you did was you called us all up and was like, "Look, there's no money, but I think if I can do the good job with this, I'm going to get this movie."
right,
And that was a hot script around town, so we
right.
were like, "Oh yeah!" And so we all showed up, and I remember the cars and I remember the graveyard. It's a
Yeah,
terrible music video, I think.
it's terrible. But, it was one of those freebies that I talked about that I did that basically ingratiated me into Troy's orbit and gained his trust. So, we shot this music video. It was completely run and gun. We shot it by Bronson Caves with the group standing on the cliff singing. Got some friend of a friend. This is a funny story because it's largely about stupidity in our youth. But he had some friend of a friend who had a helicopter, a little 2-seater. So I got in the helicopter in the passenger seat with a camera, and I'm shooting down at Bronson Caves. Handheld, of course. We didn't have money for a Tyler mount or anything like that. This is like 1995.
But you probably had some sort of a seatbelt on, I'm sure. So it was safe.
I did it. It was completely safe. I had a seatbelt on. And we're shooting down, and the helicopter is pitched so that I can shoot downward. And I've got my foot on the skid, and I've got my belted in, just like a moron. And all of a sudden, I'm looking through the viewfinder, and all of a sudden, the camera starts to tip up, and it's looking up at the sky. And I look over my shoulder, my left shoulder, and I see that the helicopter is being pushed by wind into the cliff edge.
Oh, my God. I didn't know about this.
The helicopter pilot's arms are shaking as he's holding the throttle, and he pulled up, and obviously, we didn't crash. But geez. It was one of those things where I'm like, maybe this was not the best idea.
But those were, I did something called Search and Rescue, I think it was.
Oh, yeah. I remember that show.
Robert Conrad.
Yep.
Up in like Oregon or something. Yeah. And I was on the skids of the helicopter, like strapped to the side with a 2C or something on my shoulder, or not on my shoulder. You held it up to your eye, I think. Flying off with them. That was the stupid stuff we did back then. It's amazing
I have photos of me handheld in a convertible in Romania as an actor is driving a car at about 60 miles an hour. And
oh my God.
The direct, no seatbelts, no harnesses, no safety gear. Yeah. I have a 2-seat in my face, and the director is sitting on the back part of the convertible holding my belt. And I have a picture of this, and it's just like,
don't do this at home, people. This is not what you should be doing.
But this is what we do in our 20s. It's like, well, we need a shot. Well, we don't have the gear. Well, we don't have a camera car. Okay.
Well, and also it's worth pointing out, not that any of this was okay, but there was no such thing as cheap remote heads back then. Nowadays you'd throw a Ronin on there or something like that. Right. But I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but I kind of miss those days because it was just like, I just remember it like everything was sort of exciting, and around the corner it was like you say Troy Duffy, it's like he was going to be the next Tarantino for a couple of minutes.
Yes.
And so we were like, oh, this is like we're in,
Yeah.
And of course that didn't work out, and it's like what's the next thing? But and I remember like even we used to have those massive parties at our house that like 100 people would show up to, and I remember like someone would be like, I think Brendan Fraser's here in the backyard or something like that.
Right.
And there was actually, were you there at the party when, because I don't remember whether you still lived there or not, when the helicopter came overhead and
with the
everybody to go inside everybody to go inside because there was a murder suspect in the area.
Yeah.
And I remember we closed the door and I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know 80% of these people.
Any one of them could be a murder suspect. I know.
Exactly. And then I just remember thinking, well, if I was a murder suspect in here, I'd probably play it cool. So we're probably okay. But yeah, anyway. But those, I don't know, those were good times. I remember them fondly.
Me too. Like I remember all of that with so much warmth, and the spirit of all those things that we did are still at the heart of how I make decisions now. Because because the economy of how I storytell is not necessarily dependent upon budget. Sometimes I have to tell story without tools that I would have on a larger budget that I don't have on a smaller budget. And because I come from camera, it's always been my opinion that there is no one right way to shoot a shot. It's
I love that.
ludicrous. It's stupid. It's like, sometimes I would work with these directors and say, this is the only shot that we can possibly have to be able to shoot. And it's like, really? Like, to be able to get the story across, to be able to get the emotion across. So part of, my journey as a storyteller has always been to definitely fight for the story and the tools that are required to tell in the best possible way, but to also surrender to time, budget, and resources. You can still do great work if you don't have a camera car with an arm, and you're shooting in the desert, and you need to shoot horses galloping at high speed. On Billy the Kid, which we did have decent budgets, but we had 2-3 pages of writing scenes with dialogue. And we developed something we called the cowboy cam, where one of the stunt guys who was really good at riding would carry a gimbal, motion controlled mini Alexa, and we would shoot all the coverage from the cowboy cam. So, and sometimes speeding up, slowing down, and it was so incredibly dynamic. Stuff that you actually couldn't do the same way with a camera car. But, it's like, well, if we're going to be in with the cast, if we're going to be in with the actors, and we're going to be with their characters' experiences, then we have to be with them in ways that we currently don't have the technology for. So we created something.
That's so smart. I love that. Well, but and I think one of the things for me is also, you have this thing of like, okay, this is how I want to do it, but we can't do it that way. So what can we do, and what's going to tell the story? And I think it's sometimes when you get caught up on being frustrated that you can't do it the way that you want to, you miss those things that you can do. You
Totally.
have to sort of like close that door and just embrace, okay, how do we embrace this? And also the thing that I constantly remind myself is nobody's ever going to see the shot that you wanted to do and the shot that you did.
No, exactly. As I often say, nobody gets a pamphlet with the movie or the episode that explains, well, what we were going for. It's like you don't receive that in the mail. So you don't get the benefit of being able to explain anything, right? You just have to show it.
I love that. I love the practicality of it. I will tell you on that note, one of my well, at the time I wasn't happy with it, but one of my fondest memories of you is, I don't know if you remember, but I used to go down to my friend Augie used to work at Foot Cone and Belding, which was like an ad agency. Yeah. And I used to go down there, and the big thing was they had 3/4 editing machines, like jog and shuttle editing machines. And I would go down there to cut my reel. And I'd spend like all night, down there, like, nobody knew I was there. He'd let me in or whatever. And I hope this doesn't get Augie in trouble. And I'd spend all night editing, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I'm so happy. This is going to make my reel. And I'd bring it up to you, and you'd look at it, and you would just be so brutally honest with me. And I remember very specifically, there was one cut, and I wish I had all these cuts still, but there was one cut. Actually, what I really wish I had was that opening, that first reel that I gave you, but I don't know what happened to that. But there was a shot that we did on Bitter Harvest where the camera was up at the sky, and it comes down through some trees, and it sort of sees a river, and it goes across, and it probably took like 50 seconds, and it's so boring. And I started it with you, and you were watching the reel, and you saw that shot, and it ended, and you paused, and you go, get rid of that. And I was like, why? And you were like, because it's boring and it does nothing. I was like, but I had to walk across the river to get that. And he's like, nobody sees that. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I remember it was just crushing, but you were absolutely right.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
But no, I'm happy, because otherwise I would have started. Because the reality is, as you know, and now it's even more so, but this was back then, your real, especially as an operator, and probably even as a director or DP, like they've made their decision within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So if your first opening shot is 40 seconds long and is boring, they've made their decision.
And listen, they will remember the most mediocre shot on your reel.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got to take away the mediocre shots. Even if you had to walk through broken glass to get them, they don't know that. They don't care. What they're looking to be is captivated and entertained. And it's the same thing when I had the same attitude when I shot. I have the same attitude when I direct. It's like we have to capture the audience. There are so many choices on TV today of things to watch. I mean, my queue list on Netflix is so long, I can't get to half the stuff I want to see. So if people are thrown out of the storytelling because they're trying to figure out a piece of logic, because they're bored, because the performances are not dynamic or the camera work is sort of meh, then they'll watch something else because there's a lot of other choice.
Yeah. Oh, well, and do you when you're directing now, maybe it goes back to when you were DPing, but maybe at that time hadn't taken over so much. Do you think about the fact that people are going to be watching this on a phone, or do you just put that out of your head?
No, I put it out of my head. I don't even consider that. I can't because especially like on shows like Billy the Kid, and I'm just about to go do the Magnificent Seven in Calgary.
Oh, cool.
Wow. And that's going to be the same kind of dynamic atmosphere that Billy was, which is to say you're shooting a Western. And so the landscape and the topography become as much a character as any of the cast that you're photographing. You can't do that on a cell phone with the same kind of effectiveness in terms of the format, the aspect ratio. So I don't even consider it. I shoot everything as if I'm shooting for, I don't know, either a movie screen or an 80-inch television.
Yeah. It's a little bit different, but I remember, and I've said this before here, I remember episode 3 of The West Wing when it wasn't on the air yet, so we didn't know if it was going to be a hit or not. And I remember doing this really long walk and talk with just the crazy dialogue and whatever. And Tommy Shalami and I were sitting outside of the Oval Office, and I looked at him and I said, "Are you and Aaron concerned that this is too smart for the public?" and I remember he looked at me and he goes, "It is." And I said, "And that doesn't bother you?" And he said, "No, we just decided that we're going to make what we think we should make, and if people want to go along for the ride, they're going to have to step up." And I thought that was so great. It just, it correlates to what you're saying, which is, no, I'm going to make the movie that I want to make, and hopefully people will appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean,
pandering.
I think, we can't afford to pander to people. I know there's this whole evolution of programming that's going on at some of the streamers right now where there's a policy and a mandate to repeat information.
Everyone's talking about this. It's just like,
because, people are on their phones and they're doing laundry and they're walking their dog, so we need to repeat everything every 5 seconds. And my reaction to that is no.
No.
I mean, this is part of my stubborn personality, but I'd just rather not do those shows.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand there's a fear that's driving that, but it's unfounded. The shows that get the most attention are not the shows that do that stuff. They're the shows like The Last of Us, or I'm watching a show right now called Widow's Bay with
I've heard about this.
Matthew
It sounds
Reese.
Amazing.
It's fantastic.
He's incredible. He's fantastic.
He's amazing, right? And so, and it's the shows that fully commit to their storytelling ideology and take the audience along for the ride without pandering, but also without making things too hard to follow, which I know that sounds a little bit like a network note, but I do actually believe that there's an element of that we have to, as filmmakers, obey. If people are, mystery is excellent, but if mystery ends up leaving the audience completely confused, as I have been sometimes when watching other shows, I think of Sense8 by the Wachowski brothers, for example. After 45 minutes of watching the pilot and Daryl Hannah, I'm like, I don't care about anybody, and I don't really know what's going on, and I just don't want to invest any more of my life because it's too short already.
Well, the other thing that it seems to me is like those things where they say you have to repeat it every 3 times or whatever, because then that means that your people are not invested in the story, and you've got a bigger problem than having to repeat it. Because if they're invested in the story, you shouldn't have to, because they're watching eagerly, going, "What's going to happen next?" Or "I want to figure this out," or whatever it is.
Look, if the writing,
if you lose them,
if the writing is solid and it's not lazy, then you can, in most circumstances, you should be able to tell the emotion or the mood of a scene without even hearing the dialogue on it.
So wait, let me just back up. You're saying that something should start being well written before you go in to make it?
All right, let me break this down for you, Dave.
Go slowly. Maybe repeat it 3 times.
I'm going to go really slow here. I'm going to start with the script.
Whiteboard it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's but what I've discovered over the years, and this may or may not be helpful to people, especially because I did so much network television when I got into television as a DP, and then eventually as a director, that the system of writers coming up through network television in particular is very much geared around the process of approving plot lines first. So when you get writers in a writer room, their first thing is to be able to sketch out the entire season, what happens, not who the characters are. So what happens is that staff writers coming up under that system, they learn how to backwards engineer characters into plot that they've already committed to. Now, good writers like Aaron Sorkin or David Milch or David Chase, or take your pick. I'm just getting the low-hanging fruit right now. They will figure out who the characters are first, what world that they're part of, and then they will figure out what obstacles to put in their way so that they can create the plot. That takes a lot more work, and it's actually not how most people learn how to write that come up through staff rooms. So
interesting.
That's been my observation as a director and a storyteller. I won't name the show because, again, like the lawsuits are just piling up, but
sure.
I was on a show, ABC. I can name the network because they do a lot of shows. And I was prepping an episode, and at the end of my episode was written a scene with a new character that we had not seen before on the show. And we drift down the basement steps of a house that we have not been in before. And we see a little wartime diorama that's sitting on a table and books on shelves. And you meet somebody who's creepy. And this person is going to be set up to be a serial killer in the show. Okay. And I'm going to do one scene that's going to set up this character. So rightfully, the art department is coming to me as the director, and they're saying, who is this guy? Like, what's his background? We need to know how to dress the set, not just put random stuff in there. So I go to the writer, because this is something I'm wondering too, and I say, who is this guy? And the writer says to me, what do you mean? And I say, well, did his father abuse him when he was a child? Was his father military and was like Patton and just, beat the shit out of him? Does he have emotional issues? Was he neglected by his mother? Does he have a drinking problem? Was he bullied in school? Like, what's his background? And the writer just kind of looked at me blankly and said, well, he's just crazy.
Oh, come on.
And my problem with the answer of crazy, besides being a massive cop-out and a deflection, is that it doesn't actually describe anybody in their behavior. Crazy can be sitting alone quietly in the corner rocking, and it could be somebody ripping down paintings off the wall and smashing furniture.
But to your point, the bigger thing is this guy had never even considered any of this, and like you said, not created a character, created just a situation. A situation.
So, like as a filmmaker, like as an operator, as a DP, as a director, you get into these situations sometimes in feature films as well, where the writer actually hasn't considered who the character is in a full enough fashion for you to be able to get a handle on the storytelling. Because for me, camera work, whether I was operating or whether I was shooting, was never about, well, what's the coolest shot we can do to represent this moment that's written on page 49 of the script. It's more about, well, what's happening in the story and what are we trying to get across to the audience? And are we trying to make this mysterious? Do we want to make it sinister? Do we want to reveal something? It's all about the underpinnings of story and character. And it's always been about that for me.
That's fantastic. Now I'm even more bummed that we don't work together enough. That's because you had to move to Canada and cut us all out. So that said, it's a good segue into what is your dream operator like? What do you look for in an operator as a director? I mean, obviously as a DP as well, but since you're directing now, what's your ideal?
Well, if Dave Comides isn't available to operate with me,
you're very kind.
I would say, I'm looking for operators that are storytellers first. I'm looking for operators that are interested in the underlying emotional context and feeling of a shot, rather than just making something dynamic. It's very interesting when you get on TV shows and you start working with people that have been on the same sets, maybe 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 30 episodes. And you can tell when they're getting bored because you suggest a shot that's right for the scene, and the answer that you get back, either from the operator or the DP, is, "Oh, we did that in the last episode."
We did that.
And my response to that is, well, you guys have done 4 seasons. You've probably done this shot 5 times. It doesn't mean it's not right, but my response is, pitch me something. Pitch me. But
as opposed to saying, "Oh, we did that," but say,
"That's not an answer. We have
done that, but how about this?"
It's not an answer to say we did it, because what's happening in my episode has to work for the episode.
Sure.
I don't care if
well,
I'm
that's
repeating
it.
something.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question though. Are you okay with? Oh, we did that in this episode, in that last episode. I want to let you know that we just did that in that last episode, so you're aware of it. Is this a possibility? Would this work?
Absolutely.
Or is it? Yeah.
I'm fully about pitches, because the ideas, as I learned in my DP career, can come from anywhere. Sometimes I've had second ACs, loaders, that have said, "Hey, it'd be kind of cool. Look at over there." And something that as a DP I just didn't see. And so, one has to have their ego far enough out of the way to be able to acknowledge, like, okay, that's not my idea, but it's the right idea, and it's the best idea. So, that's what part of being a good leader is, whether you're an operator or a DP or a director or producer, for that matter, is being able to utilize the talent that you have so carefully built around you. You want a dolly grip that is really an operator and grips clothing? Well, if they have an idea, maybe you should hear them out, because it might be actually best for the shot.
Fantastic. Tommy Shalami again always says to me, "I don't care where the idea comes from, because I will be the one up there getting the award."
Exactly. I agree with Tommy. I say that too. It's like, what do I care? My name says director of photography.
Exactly.
It's like, if you have the idea, that just means I'm really smart.
Well, yeah, and also, but there is that thing of, and I do this as well with ACs and dolly grips, of course. You want to put together a good team, because you don't always have the best idea. And sometimes, I don't know if you've found this before, but as a director, well, TV is a little different because it's quick, but if it was a movie, it's a longer. But even in TV, like, you go in there and you get an idea in your head of how it's going to work and how it's going to look and how you're going to shoot it. And granted, you're always ready to throw that out the window if the actors come in and something different happens. But you still have a preconceived notion, right?
Of course.
Whereas the operator's coming in with theoretically no preconceived notion, looking at it for the first time.
Yeah.
So there's benefit to that, right? What about a B camera operator?
I am not a fan. I'll just say this, and I may be unpopular by saying this, but I am not a fan of hunt and peck. B camera operating.
Define hunt and peck.
Hunt and peck is, in my view, when you say to a B camera operator, "Could you just find something to shoot during this scene?" First of all, I don't like giving anything to the editors that I don't intend to use.
Boom. Yeah.
That's the key thing, because they will. Like, the producers will come in and they'll just cut to cut. They won't cut. They won't cut because it's warranted. They'll cut because they've got something else to cut to, and they're afraid that the audience is going to fall asleep if they don't make an edit. I don't believe in that. I think that that's nonsense. But so I like to be intentional. Now, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I've got a shot to show you, and it's about the storytelling, and it could be good in the cut," I'm all for it. But I don't. I have many times been on shows as a guest director where I come in and the producing director will say to me, "Oh, and you've got this guy on B camera and he's really good at just finding stuff." And that's what that tells me is that people aren't coming in with a plan, number one. And number two, that the operator's actually probably got good taste if they're liking what he's doing. So
yeah, that's true.
I just try to refunnel that energy into intention. And, every show has its rhythm with how it works. And I just came off a show where the DP told me, our B camera operator is really good at finding, like, interstitials and cutaways. And my response was, I'm all for that as long as we're not sacrificing the B camera when we need it. But I generally don't like to provide junk. And he said, no, he has good taste. I said, okay, I trust you. And
it's funny that you were saying the editor's using everything, because one of the things when I mentor younger operators, I have a list of things that I sort of give them, these like things I've learned over time. And one of them is, if they go, just reset the dolly, let's just go again. I'll usually tilt down to the track or something like that. And they're like, why? And I go, because if you're framed in any way and you're moving backwards, they may use it. And it's not a shot that you want to do. And they're like, isn't, maybe that's useful to them. And it's like, no, but I don't want that to be useful to them, because otherwise I would frame it correctly, and who knows what's going on. And unless the director wants that, we don't want to give that to them. So, and I've seen crazier things happen, as I'm sure have you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all kinds of insane things, like a director saying on a reset, okay, stop there in the middle, and then just making up an improv without that has nothing to do with what you just shot. Yeah,
and nobody's ready for it,
no.
And they're upset that it didn't work or whatever.
Right.
It's like, well, let's just set it up. So what about what's your feeling on you're doing take 3 and just it's one of those things as an operator where you realize that something is happening, and you just you cue the dolly and you slowly move in because there's a moment or something like that. Is that something that you're appreciative of, or is that not those things that happen in the moment that you just can't plan?
I'm all for initiative from good operators that have taste. And there are times in the storytelling, even when you've got somebody who you just feel like you're lock and step with, that something like that happens, and it's actually not right for the scene. And it's okay to to disagree, right? It's like, that's part of the process when you're dealing with creative people. So I've had that happen. It's not very often, because usually, like, when the push it happens, it's like, oh yeah, that was the right choice. I'm glad they did that. Yeah. But there are times when I say, hey, I appreciate what you did, but let's do one where you don't push it, because I'm not sure that I want to put the emphasis on that part of the scene. I want to save it. Yeah. And you also don't want to repeat beats emotionally, because oftentimes those will get cut out in the editing room.
Yeah. When you go into these episodic things where you're just doing an episode or 2 episodes, are you relying on the camera operator's relationship with the actors? Like, do you use that?
Absolutely. 100%. I expect it. I expect that first of all, I expect that the A camera operator is going to run the set, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get ready. Oh yeah. I know you'll find this shocking. But you get there and you're like, oh, you start doing the rehearsal, and the boom's in the shot. There's flags in the shot. Like, nothing has been actually worked out.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's just depressing to me.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
you get an A camera operator that hasn't. If you have a newer B camera operator, or somebody who's fresher, you get A camera operators that don't help them. And it's like, dude, you have to teach the people who don't have as much experience as you how to work on a set and how to take the initiative, because sometimes people are timid. They're like, oh, I don't want to bother the actor. I don't want to. It's like, they're here to be bothered. They're relying on you to help them by giving them parameters. So
when you come into a show where that's the norm, like they're 2 seasons in and that's the way it's doing, I mean, do you try to coax that, or do you just go, I guess this is what's happening? Because it's a little tough, right?
It always has to be addressed, is my first answer. It always has to be addressed when someone is sort of not doing the full job. Now, sometimes I'm in a unique position with having been a DP, because it can be ill-conceived for me to step in as a guest director on a show that's not my show as a producer, and that I'm not the DP on, and start giving notes to an operator. So what I usually do is I take the DP aside and I say, listen, have you noticed that this is happening? And often they'll say, yes, it's been a problem. And I'll try to direct that through the DP. Now, I have had a show in the last 3 or 4 years where the B camera operator was not up to the skill level that they needed to be. And the DP tried, I tried. And finally, we, had to talk to the line producer, and over a holiday break, they were replaced. And I always feel bad when I'm in this position, but I sadly, my priority is not to protect people's jobs and make friends. My job is to get the work done. And sometimes people are put into positions where they are not ready. And it's happened to me as a DP. It happened to me.
It's happened to me.
Sure. I think that's part of the rite of passage.
Yeah.
No,
there's no question.
I've been fired off of shows as a director producer because of politics and things that I learned along the way, which I didn't know before. So it is a part of the industry. But yeah, it's like, I try not to intercede because, the first thing people do is they say, who is this Adam Kane guy? And then they look me up on IMDb, and oftentimes it's like, oh, you shot the Boondock Saints? Oh my God. That was
Is that the one that comes up?
It's the one that comes up. It is absolutely the one that comes up.
That's Donnie Darko with me. I could do. There's nothing I could ever do that people would still be Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko was awesome, man.
That's the one. It was, but Boondock Saints was awesome in its own way.
Yeah, I guess. But it's sometimes I'll get people that say they loved Hannibal or they loved Daredevil the first season, which I did, or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, but Boondock is sort of like it's sort of etched in people's who are of a certain age.
So.
They're coming of age, and so there's
but again,
something
like
more
I was
emotional
saying
tied
earlier,
to it.
Well, and we all thought we all thought this was the next Tarantino. Because it was not that he had proven it, but like the lore was growing and the whole thing with the bar and all that stuff. I remember all that so well.
He was on the cover of magazines where they were. That was the title. That was the headline. The new Tarantino.
Whatever happened to him?
Well,
whatever happened? To him?
Troy was not very good at managing egos of other people. Yeah. He was pretty rough and abrasive. And after Boondock sort of fizzled in terms of the financials, he became unhireable. And part of that was because of Harvey Weinstein and his ego being hurt by Troy's brashness. Harvey had told other people not to work with him, not to pick up the film.
So he became untouchable.
He became untouchable. Now, he did do a sequel to Boondock, which I was not involved in. And he's, tried to, at one point, Troy and I tried to resurrect or to construct a sort of a prequel TV series about how the boys came to America as immigrants in Boston and how they became the Boondock Saints in the beginning, which I loved. And I was going to direct the pilot and be a producer director, and Troy and I were going to direct all the episodes, and that didn't come to fruition. School shootings have been a big part of why Boondock got suppressed. I mean, Columbine came out in between when we shot the movie and when we released the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
And
I didn't realize that was the time frame.
That was the time frame. Oh. And that's one of the major reasons why people were a little gun shy, not to make a joke about it at all. No pun. Very seriously, but people were shy and reserved about, they didn't want to put money behind something that was what could be viewed as glorifying violence.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that was part of that. Oh, interesting. Well, that's, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so is he still trying to direct, and is he still trying to make things?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Troy in a few years. I think he's still trying, and he's managed to sort of stay afloat financially through, I think, a website that's dedicated to Boondock Saints, merchandise, and he's got a following. People still love it.
Good.
Yeah.
More than most. So let me ask you quickly about the fix, because, you basically, you wanted to direct, and you thought, okay, I need a calling card. I'm going to make this short. And just tell me a little bit about that, because that's really what catapulted you, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes. That and a lot of stubbornness on my part.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd certainly seen other directors who came from DP or editorial or ADs or other places. And I had tried to get some of the producers that had hired me as a DP to bring me on as a director, and it was unsuccessful. The big thing was never about my ability to handle a crew and schedule and things like that. It was always about the cast. Could he direct actors? Could he talk to actors? So I thought, okay, I'll do a short film. I'll put my money where my mouth is. And I thought, you know what? I can't even honestly say that I'd like directing because I've never done it. So I'll make a short. And if I come out of the short and I hate it, then I can say that I tried and I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
If I come out saying that I loved it, then I can make the next step. So I had finished shooting a TV show for Touchstone Television, which is was part of Disney, called Line of Fire, with a director named Rod Lurie at the helm, who was the producer and creator of the show. And I managed to get the crew at the end of the season to come and basically do this show for free. My short film.
Short, yeah.
It was all my own money. Nate Goodman shot it, who was my operator and now has become a very successful DP of his own right and a member of the ASC. And David Paymer was one of the actors in Line of Fire, and I pulled him in. I had done a number of films with Robert Patrick, and I had pulled him in. So I got actors that I knew had experience and a certain level of quality who were right for the job. And I picked out January just after Christmas as a time to shoot because I knew that most people were not yet employed on pilots if they weren't going back to shows. And we shot the short. And then it took me about 2.5 years to get an opportunity to direct something because...
Oh, was that long?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And because everybody and their mother had a short at that point. This was not 1988, like, Sex, Lies, and Videotape with Soderbergh, where if you made a short film, you could get an opportunity to do a feature. This was 2000 and early 2005. And everybody could make it. If you had a cheap camera from Good Guys, you could make a short film because you had Final Cut Pro, and you could just do it yourself. And that was the wave that was sort of coming through festivals. So I made this short on 16 millimeter for aesthetic reasons. I wanted the grain. I wanted it to feel like a 70s movie. I showed it to a number of managers who I happened to know. Nobody would take me on, agents, managers. I started sending it to festivals to get exposure. I won the LA Shorts Festival for Best Short, which made me eligible for the Academy Awards for short film.
Wow.
And then was disqualified from the Academy Awards for short film because it had appeared in an online festival for South by Southwest, which is a whole nother story.
Because it's no longer a good film if it's appeared somewhere specifically.
It's no longer, they were still trying to protect this idea of theatrical and all this kind of nonsense. Even though at the festivals they were showing, all films off of D2 at the time, so they weren't even screening prints, but that's another story.
Anyway,
I kept shooting, and in that time period, I shot the pilot for Heroes, which was a pretty big game changer. It got me an ASC nomination for Best Pilot. It got me into the ASC as a member, sort of opened the door to that. And Stephen Poster was one of the signatories on my...
I think I asked him for you, or I think I told you to ask him or something.
You told me to ask him, and he did, and I was very grateful. Got me into the ASC. And right after the Heroes pilot, I was doing a film with Rod Lurie that I was photographing called Resurrecting the Champ. It was a movie with Sam Jackson and Josh Hartnett. And I was conveniently unavailable to start shooting Heroes, the series. after it got picked up. And so I decided to use this time period as a trial to see if I could get hired as a director. By this point, it had been almost a year and a half since I made the short. I'd gotten a manager at some, small company to believe in me, but I had no leverage really. And so I did everything I could to ingratiate myself into the process of directing, which is to say, I knew the showrunner on Supernatural, this guy named Bob Singer, because I shot some pilots for Bob back in the day. And I said, hey, can I fly myself up to Vancouver? I'll put myself in a hotel. I just want to shadow a director. I want to put my time in. And he said, absolutely. So I did that. And that cost me $5 or $6 grand. And, that did not lead to a job. And then I shadowed on Heroes. And I kept, bugging the producers on Heroes to give me an episode. And they kept trying to barter, saying, well, if we give you an episode to direct, would you alternate with the DP we hired? And I said, oh, thank you. I can't really do that. Because I knew that in the industry, those kinds of deals were looked at as completely transactional. They didn't like people when they saw a resume, they knew that was a deal made, and they didn't take those directors seriously.
That's a tough decision to make, though.
Yeah, I turned it down. And in fact, I doubled down and I said, but I'll tell you what, if you give me 2 episodes to direct, I will shoot. And they said, oh, yeah, we can't do that. Can't do that. But to their credit, this is to the credit of Tim Kring, who is the creator of Heroes, they decided, he and Dennis Hammer, who was the producer, that if they got a back order pickup, that they would give me an episode. And they did. No strings attached.
Nice.
And so my first episode of directing television was on Heroes.
That's amazing, which was a huge show. People probably don't remember it, but it was a massive
It was
show.
a gigantic hit at the time. And I will forever be indebted to Tim and Dennis for taking a leap of faith with me, because truthfully, that's what we all need. Whether you're an operator or an assistant or any role in the industry, someone has to believe in you and give you a break. Yep. So it didn't come without months of lobbying. It didn't come without months of ass kissing and emails and all kinds of stuff. But, I was kind of running out of money. And I thought, okay, if by pilot season in 2007, if I don't have a job directing, I got to go back to shooting. And
the dream's over.
And in January, I was signed into the DGA. And I directed my first episode in March of Heroes. And
that's cool.
I did not expect that. I thought, oh, well, just like I had to put my time in on low budget features as a DP, I'll start doing Aaron Spelling shows or Nickelodeon shows or whatever. And I'll gladly work my way up. But when I got Heroes, I was like, oh, now this is a problem, because now if I go do Nickelodeon and Aaron Spelling shows, the impression will be, what happened? You started on Heroes and now you went down. And especially because I was trying to push my cinematography background as one of the assets that people could hang on to hire me as a director. So fortunately, I landed into a string of very, very visual shows like Pushing Daisies immediately following, and I didn't really have that problem. Although in the beginning I certainly took shows because I needed to earn a living. Some shows that were not particularly visual, like The Mentalist and things like that. But I was building a career. And when building a career, as I had experienced as a DP, you just got to get your name out there. You have to become known to people. And when that happens, then, you start alienating the people that from the profession that you came from. I became competition to all the directors that used to hire me, because a lot of them did television. So it was a frightening thing for me to make that leap. It was a tough couple of years.
That's an amazing story, and clearly it's paid off, because now you're directing and producing and everything else. And like I said, if you look at your IMDb, I was amazed at how much you've done in your IMDb. I didn't realize that, because I've sort of lost touch of that part of your life. But congratulations, and
thank you.
It's cool to hear someone who took the leap and it actually worked, even though, like you said, when you break it down, it's like it wasn't quick. You had to stick with it. You had to put your time in, all those other things. But it's nice when it works out.
I was in the right place at the right time, no doubt, and I had the right connection. And to my credit, I suppose, I had spent 20 years building a cinematography career, so I knew people based on another profession. I just pushed real hard because, going back to what we were talking about earlier, no one's just going to hand it to you for free. You really you got to get people to believe in you, who are willing to put their asses on the line and put their name on the line to give you a shot.
I'm going to ask you a couple quick fire questions because this will go on forever because I have a good time talking to you.
Same.
But worst thing that an operator can do?
Change a shot and not notify the DP or the director.
Love it. That's fantastic. I have to stop doing that.
Hence why we don't work together anymore.
5 movies that you think an aspiring operator should watch.
Apocalypse Now. Annie Hall.
Ooh, interesting.
Interiors by Woody Allen. Atonement. And Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, jeez. That's not something that comes up that often, but totally. You know what? I don't know if I've sent this to you or not, but there's a new website, new page on the website, theop.io, that is specifically about blocking, because I don't think that people know blocking the way that they should, and to me, that's like the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
And it's almost annoying how much Spielberg stuff is on there.
Yeah,
because it's just he's a master. And there's stuff Coppola. That I found in Raiders, and Coppola. I mean, there's a ton of different people.
Yeah.
But there's stuff that I found in Raiders that like I'm sure, like you, I grew up on Raiders, right? I've probably seen it 100 times.
Yeah.
Like I can quote the movie. But then I started watching it from a blocking point of view. There's stuff in there that's genius. I mean,
genius
on a complete different. I mean, there's even the moment where his boss at the school, whose name is I'm forgetting, but comes home to tell him he got the money to send him, on the expedition.
Yes.
That's just the two of them talking, and it just moves around.
It's mostly
the room,
a wonder.
He comes into the foreground. It is a wonder. Well, there's
an insert
of
a gun, but
isn't it? God, you know it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very
but
well.
It's a nothing scene, and it's so beautiful. It's incredible. So anybody should go to the blocking.
Because what scenes like that do, and Coppola did this in The Godfather as well, when Michael's coming to power after his father's been killed, is that it shows through positioning and whether people are sitting or standing, who is actually in control of a moment and who has become subservient. And it's brilliant because you're not relying on cuts in order to focus. You are asking the audience to become participants in the scene by not cutting.
Yeah. Yep. Well. So let me ask you this. I was going to ask you all these quick questions, but forget about it because this is more interesting to me. So the more that I watch these things, and there are probably like 80 different ones on there, and I'm not even saying that, some of it, I've found some of them been suggested to me. I'm not even saying all of them are necessarily like exactly that. They're just what I think is, and other people should look at it and take what they want from it. But the more that I realize, and I watch things that don't have good blocking, the more that I realize how much of it has to do with the characters having business to do in the scene. And I don't necessarily mean like filling out a chart, but it's like, sitting down and then standing and then coming close, as opposed to a lot of these things where I'm on shows where they go, okay, let's just sort of like speak the words, and the actors kind of wander around the set, and the directors go, okay, well, let's mark that. And you're like, well, wait, isn't this going to be designed somehow?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, how do you think that's what it is? Is the characters having something to do that helps with that?
I think that, my observations as a DP and an operator working with under other directors, which I did a little bit of in my time, is that often directors who rely on the storytelling of a shot to be the guiding force are sort of ignoring what the basic needs of the character are. So you have to blend those. When I started directing, I was thinking exclusively in shots. Like, oh, I could tell like this, I could tell like this. And I would almost have like 3 openings to every scene because I kept thinking of shots, you know.
Oh, wow.
But what I wasn't doing, and what I learned how to do, was to, when I was reading a script, figure out what is each character going through? Where are they coming into the scene? What is their goal in the scene? More from an actor's perspective. So that, because when I figured that out as a director, then I understood the blocking became simple. It's like, well,
oh, interesting.
You know, it's like, and you and I both had this conversation before, but like when you see actors sort of tackle blocking where a director kind of doesn't know what they want, where to put the camera becomes very self-evident.
Absolutely.
It's really easy.
No question.
You know?
When the blocking's good, everything else just
it just falls right in, right?
Itself.
Now,
that's exactly right.
Now, if I'm doing a genre show like a Western, then there may be visual signatures or markers of the genre that might dictate how a scene is blocked. For example, it's very common in genre Westerns like Good, Bad, and the Ugly to have the camera just above the brim line of a cowboy hat and have the actor kind of look up into the lens. It's very much a part of the style. So what I found is that if I can talk to the actors in terms of being in service to that, they'll get it right away. And if I want some sort of particular moment directorially, but the most important thing is to understand what the actors are needing in the scene and what they're experiencing from the scene that they were last coming from, which may not be adjacent in the script. It might have happened 5 pages ago, but that's what they're focusing on. So a lot of the time, my blocking comes in the form of relaying to the actors what I know about that homework that I've already done. They say, well, you came from this scene and you were upset about this. So, you know, you don't have to do this, but you might be coming in with trepidation into the scene. And, you know, and when you talk about that and you bury that into direction, and listen, you know, we're all directors, camera operators are directors, DPs are directors. Anytime we have a relationship with a crew or cast, we are directing them at one point or another. And so understanding their needs and how to work with them so that a trust can be formed is the name of the game. To me, that was the most important part of being a DP and working with actors, was to be able to find a common ground of trust so that if I needed them to do something, that they would do it for me. And you only got that. I'll tell a good story about this, actually, because we're in it. I did a movie as a DP called The Man, which was a New Line Cinema movie with Sam Jackson and Eugene Levy. And it was for me, it was a big movie. It was about $35 million. And I had done movies in the teens and the 20s before, but nothing quite this big. And I had oddly worked with Sam once before. I had done a tiny little movie in the early 90s that was directed by Anthony Michael Hall, and before Pulp Fiction. And Sam Jackson he played the postman. He had one line in a scene.
That's awesome.
So in between, he became a movie star, and I'm now shooting this movie. And I came in to the camera test, and I said, "Hey, Sam, you may not remember me. We shot." And he finished my sentence, and he said, "Yeah, we did that little movie with Anthony Michael Hall." And I thought,
that's great.
Oh, either he has an ironclad memory or he's done his research. Yeah. But he's prepared. So we get on the set of shooting the first day, and because it's a comedy, it's a buddy cop comedy. It's supposed to have a lighter contrast in the lighting, and Sam's pretty dark, and Eugene Levy is sort of olive skin. And I usually tried to put Sam closest to the light so he would get most of it. And we're doing the scene where he has to walk around a corner and stop at the corner, and he ends up being shy of his mark by about 1.5 feet, just enough to where he's really too dark, you know. So I go up after the first take, and I look up at, Sam's like 6'4". He's like a big guy, and I say, "Hey, Sam, you didn't quite toe your mark. Could you toe your mark in the next take?" And he looked down at me and he said, "Why?" And I said, well, because you're not in the light where you landed. So if you actually want to be seen in the movie, if you could please hit the mark, that'd be great. If you don't want to be seen, you can stand wherever you want. And he looked down at me and he said, I'll see what I could do. And he never missed a mark the rest of the movie. Because Sam is the kind of actor who is a bit of a predator. If he smells fear in you as anything, as a DP, an operator, he will spend his life on that movie devouring you. Mm-hmm. And so if I needed him to like, hey, can you just open up and be more to the window? He'd do it because he trusted me.
He had already pushed you and you pushed back. And that was what was
and that's the entire relationship that we all have with cast. If you're an operator and the actor thinks that you're timid and that they're not going to look good because you're too timid to say something, then they're not going to trust you. Mm-hmm. It's universally true. And
no, that's fantastic. The thing about it, of course, is every actor is different in figuring out where that need is and what that line is.
That's right.
That's why I tell people, if you really want to be successful, you should get a psychology degree and then go into film, because you'll do much better, because it's all about therapy and it's all about sort of going, all right, what are your quirks and what do you need and what don't you need? And when should I talk to you and when shouldn't I talk to you and who's had a good day and who hasn't, it's all that stuff.
Yep.
So you end up becoming a little bit of a therapist in a weird way.
Actresses will look at you to help protect them, especially if they're of a certain age. Men will look to make sure that you're looking out to make them the most heroic or leading man-like because of their aspirations. So it's trying to figure out exactly, man, the psychology thing is so spot on.
Well, it is because the thing is, the answer isn't always yes, but sometimes you gotta put it in a way that they feel that it's yes. Do you know?
Hey, listen, most people, and this is cast and crew alike, they just want to be heard. Yeah. They want to be seen. And if you can establish that relationship, then you will gain their trust, likely.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's absolutely spot on. Back to my final couple of quick questions for you. Best part of your job as a director?
Getting to work with crew.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, it's true because I come from crew. Like, crew's my family. So,
yeah, sure.
Like, I know how hard it is to make anything. You have to put the same effort on a bad show as a good show if you really care about your job.
Do people try to bullshit you and then you catch them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time, man.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Well, you can pretty much guess what happens, right?
Sure. That's what I'm saying. When I say I'd like to see that, I'd literally like to be sitting on set without a job watching that happen.
I was born at night,
some popcorn,
but it wasn't last night. I mean, it's like I know more than enough to make me dangerous. That's part of the problem is I know a lot of the jobs on the set. I don't know them all, but I know a lot of them.
No, but and also as long as you wield that well, that makes you valuable, not necessarily problematic, because you can also fix things. But there is that thing of we're all trying to sort of, we're all trying to get away with things all the time.
Well, listen, it's like with operators, sometimes I will have a very specific note that's operator based on a shot. Mm-hmm. Like if, sometimes I largely joke about this, especially with newer operators, that a lot of newer operators have issues with commitment. I don't mean personal commitment.
That's 100%. But that's 100%. I mean, I think everybody when they're starting out, because you're always wondering, like, is this the best frame or is that the best
and you're
frame?
second guessing, right? Yeah. So if you're like walking down a corridor with somebody on a dolly track on a Steadicam, it doesn't matter. And if the shot requires you to leave somebody prematurely to go pick up another actor, that's the biggest culprit. And I'll often say, John Doe, you got to commit, man. Like, do you have commitment issues? Are you married? Like, I'll start fucking with people because it's I know that feeling. I know it. I've been on the camera when I've been afraid to commit, and it's something that you have to put your trust and faith into, that you will make the right decision.
That's exactly right. Well, and I think you have to get to the point. What I always tell people is, committing. When you commit, it's a choice. It may not be the choice that the director wanted or the DP wanted, but it's a choice. if you don't commit it, it's always a mistake.
Right.
If you do commit, sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you're going to be wrong. But if you don't commit, you're always wrong.
Right.
So
exactly.
And I think the key to it is, for me, the point when I think my operating changed was when I realized, like, oh, I'm going to screw up sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's more important to make a choice. It's more important to make a choice, and because good directors and good DPs will recognize that and say after a take, I know you made a choice and I appreciate that, and let's do something a little different for the next take.
Yeah. Yeah,
because it's not about it being right. There is no right or wrong as far as I'm concerned. The only wrong is not committing. Just commit to something. And I'll tell you, Phil Parmet, who is a DP out of New York, and I don't know if he's still with us, but Phil gave me great advice years ago when I was an assistant on a movie that he was shooting in New York in the late 80s before I left to go to AFI. I was a second, and he threw me on a C camera one day for a stunt because that's what happened, and he said to me, now just take a deep breath when the sticks are marking and exhale, and you'll do just fine. And that is something that I carried with me. Sometimes I do it at the monitor when I'm directing, is I take it because I'm carrying a certain level of anxiety and stress with me. But when I was operating on a fluid head or the gear head, man, that kept me relaxed. Is that or handheld, I would just take a deep breath when the marker went up. And I was always able to stay relaxed through shooting.
That's funny. That's really interesting, because if I'm doing a big Steadicam shot, I've had people ask me about this before because I didn't realize I was doing it. As the sticks are going, I will actually take both of my hands one at a time and shake them vigorously.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm. It's the same idea.
And it's sort of like it sort of wakes me up a little bit. Loosens you up. Flowing.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, and it's
the same idea.
Yeah, because man, it's something else when you're on a big movie. And I was on a movie with Dick Donner directing as an operator.
Oh, wow.
Like I was doing like G camera, take it easy. I was like a day player, but I saw, we're shooting this little thing like on a rooftop in Chinatown in LA with Mel Gibson going across the frame. It's one of the Lethal Weapon movies. And the operator looked up afterwards and he said, "Oh, sorry, Dick, I missed the the tilt." And Dick looked at him and playfully said, "Excuses don't photograph."
That's great.
And everybody laughed.
That's a T-shirt right there.
That's a T-shirt.
That's fantastic.
But that's what all of us fear, is that we will make a mistake when we're rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. What's the worst part of your job as a director?
Having to deal with stupid people.
Oh, that's the worst part of the job.
It is.
All of us. But there aren't stupid people in Hollywood, are there?
Let me go back to writing the script. Let me start with that.
Yeah.
No, but
exactly. Could you explain that again?
And most of it has to do with people having other agendas that have nothing to do with the making of the film or the TV show.
That's exactly right.
Other agendas about them looking good to the studio, or being afraid of conflict, or having a way of doing things that's a little more underhanded that they usually get away with. So it's dealing with people where their priority is not the quality of the product.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I don't know if you have this, but there are times, and it's almost on every show, where something will happen or someone will say something, and I sort of want to look around and go, seriously, like, are we on camera? What's going on? Like, you didn't really just suggest that or not understand that or whatever it happens to be. It is kind of amazing.
Well, this is like, here's a classic example. Not to just take up the rest of your afternoon, but I'm having fun. So
this is all great.
I did a show with Ian McShane in New York many years ago, a TV show that I directed. And if you've ever met Ian, he can be kind of intimidating. He's kind of a, little fiery Scottish fellow. And I was on my first day of shooting, which we had talked about with the producer as needing to go to hour 13. And sure enough, around hour 11, the AD comes to me and says, "Well, they want you to wrap it up in 12. And I said, "Well, it's a little late for that, and I really don't know how to condense it." And then I had an idea, and I said, "Oh, here's an idea. The next two scenes are with Ian. They're both day interior. We were on stage. They're both at his desk. All he needs to do is put on a different tie and shirt. So I could block shoot these scenes and probably save you 45 minutes because I wouldn't have to turn twice. Mm-hmm. So I watched the AD go across the set to the line producer who's sitting on the opposite side, whisper something to her. I then watch him go to Ian McShane, who's on the other side of the set. And all I see are Ian's hands start throwing up in the air wildly like a Muppet. And then I watched the AD go back to the line producer. And she walked away and went back to her office. And the AD comes back to me. And I said, what happened? He says, well, I went to Ian and suggested what you said. And he says, I'm not fucking helping you guys. You haven't been taking care of me this season. I'm not doing fuck all.
Oh, lovely.
And management didn't deal with it. So we shot 13 hours.
There you go.
And so when I say stupid people, it's like, I gave you guys every opportunity to help yourselves.
Yeah.
And yet you didn't have the courage to be able to go talk to your actor directly. Well, I'm not going to solve your problems. And if you don't want to work with me again, that's okay. Because I don't want to work with people like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's the logical way to deal with things. Unfortunately, things aren't always that way. Before we finish up here, it occurred to me, we should take a minute and give a shout out to all the people, not all, but a lot of the people from back in the day. And I'm thinking of Crash, of course, wherever he is in heaven, Dave Slodky, Michelle McKinley, Corey Gariak. Who else is in there from back in the day?
Mike Bauman.
Mike Bauman. By the way, what is Mike Bauman doing these days?
Yeah, exactly. Who just got nominated for an Academy Award.
I know. And won the ASC Award.
And by the way, Mike Bauman, who was my best boy on my first feature, which Dave worked on that we talked about, the Double O Kid.
Mike Bauman was on Double O Kid? I didn't realize that.
Wow. I have the crew photo. I'll send it to you.
That's awesome. Please do.
Yeah. And he was so Corey was making $80 a day. Mike was making 70 as the best boy.
Oh my
So goodness. So shoot, operate on everything, operate on anything.
Yeah.
Because you just never know. Right. But as far as shout outs goes, gosh.
Who else? Poodle. Remember Poodle?
Poodle.
Susie Diaz.
Yep.
Rocky Quiros. That's a long time ago.
I'm trying to think of the sound. Tony Smiles, who Rocky used to work for.
Yeah,
the sound engineer.
Do you remember, by the way, on Bitter Harvest, Crash and I took oh God, what's his name? He was in Raising Arizona. He was the detective in Blood Simple. He has 3 names.
I know who you're talking about.
Oh God, I can't think of his name.
We did
in Raising Arizona. He has this very small part where Nicolas Cage is drilling and he's sitting there and he's like, he's walking down the road and he's got his head in one hand and his sandwich in the other, something like that. Some stupid thing, but it used to crack us up. And Crash and I were like, could you do the dialogue from that? Of course, he doesn't remember it because he's like, probably, seen the movie once and we've seen it 9 million times. And we were literally like feeding him lines. And this poor guy was so great because he was trying to get it right, but like he doesn't know it the way that we know.
Oh, it was Emmett Walsh. That's who it was.
Emmett Walsh, yeah. Yes. We were so excited to work with him.
Oh, I was stoked, man. That was awesome.
Oh, man, those were the days. Of course, Dwayne
Clark,
directed that.
who I still am friends with, and I still see
Yep.
when I go to LA.
Oh, my God. Jeanette Scheib, remember Jeanette Scheib?
Of course.
Who was loading on that,
yep.
I think, or seconding on that or something like that? Yeah, boy. Nobody's going to care about any of this.
No, but it's fun for us.
That's all right. Yeah, that's right. That's why I do my own podcast, because I can do whatever the hell I want. But anyway, those were phenomenal times. I'm sure we're leaving a ton of people out, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Did I say Dave Slodky?
You did.
I said Dave Slodky.
You did.
Yeah, but this has been fantastic. It's great to catch up with you and hear all this stuff. And there's so many great nuggets in here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave you with the question that I leave everybody with. And you can take us out with it, which is advice for people working in the industry now, starting out on their path on how to succeed, and or something you have learned along the way that you wish you knew early on?
Well, in terms of succeeding in the industry, I think being your own advocate and your own salesman is really important. Saleswoman, salesperson. It's incredibly important. As we talked about, nobody is going to give a break to you without putting their own butt on the line. And we all need breaks. I've had breaks throughout my entire career from people that were willing to vouch for me. But if one thinks that they're going to be able to find a producer or someone who's just going to hire them carte blanche, and that there's no politics involved, and that you're never going to have to talk to anybody, I would, not to dash your hopes, but I would say, be the hero of your own story. That you cannot play if you don't. You can't win if you don't play. The business is like the lotto, in my view. And you're certainly not going to win $100 million unless you buy a lottery ticket. I don't play the lotto, by the way, but I did play the industry. And, I've had 3 really great careers that have sprouted up because I was willing to put myself out there. Shoot anything and everything. Have dreams that are beyond the job that you're currently focused on. If you want to be an operator, it is okay to want to be a DP or director. You do not have to hide that from other people. I think that the best operators were people, and are people that are people who have shot, that are people who have directed, that are people that understand the other aspects of filmmaking. I want people to have aspirations beyond being a loader or a grip. That makes them filmmakers. So if you have curiosities, explore them. And I would say, don't ever be afraid to try something that seems like it's out of your wheelhouse. As I mentioned before, shooting a news footage for Associated Press would seem to be the farthest thing away from narrative filmmaking. And yet I probably took more lessons from the jobs I did in my 3 years of shooting for them than I had previously in all of my educational time at NYU and AFI put together. Learning how to tell stories is not the exclusive realm of narrative filmmaking. You can learn wonderful things from documentaries, or shooting news, or shooting weddings. It's not glorious and it's not glamorous, but all those experiences lead you to skill sets that you'll use for your entire career. What I wish I knew earlier, make relationships with people, even if you think you're never going to interface with them. This is something that I was not very good at. I thought that the front-facing people that I dealt with, like the directors and producers and the DPs in some circumstances, were the people that I pretty much needed to know. What I didn't understand is that we live in a people business. So if you are able to form any kind of rapport with a production manager, with a coordinator, with a producer, it will expand your horizons later. I once got a job opportunity to shoot my first TV pilot because the coordinator I became friends with on a previous show recommended me to the director because they were looking for somebody. And it's like, how did I ever think that was going to happen? But I ended up getting that job. It was my first pilot for television. So, form relationships, because it can backfire in the same way. If you become the target of some kind of either political scapegoat or something like that, which crew people do all the time, because God knows that we're not going to fire producers or directors for that matter. That's too disruptive. Then you can become a target if you don't have relationships with people. And it took me becoming fired off of a TV show as a producer director to really understand that, because I had not made the relationships that I should have with people at the studio. So I would say, if you're shy, work on that. Get used to talking to people. It's really hard to be shy and become embedded in a leadership position like an A-camera operator or a DP or a director in this industry. I think that, being front-facing is really important.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.